Hi everyone and welcome to another speed build in The Sims 2 where I am doing two community lots today. So the Comandgo Emporium and Midnight Flows. I'm starting off with Comandgo, and what I'm doing with this lot is I'm pretty much turning it into a salon. Originally it's kind of a mixed use lot, but it's mostly I think it sold clothes and like computer video games, whatever, computer games, and I think magazines. It was a bit of a pointless lot in my opinion. I mean, there's much more exciting places to kind of go shopping and all that stuff. So it seemed fitting to turn into a salon, because salons don't really need to be that big, and there wasn't one in my in this Strangetown neighborhood that I'm playing. So with this lot, pretty much what I'm doing is more or less just modernizing it. I looked at some reference photos and kind of looked through, different color schemes and all that stuff. I also extended the lot so that I can put a parking lot at the back. I do like my neighborhood to kind of look more full and, as little kind of dead space as possible, especially between different lots. Like I like those spaces to be filled up and kind of look as if they're almost seamless. So yeah, I've extended the back, and yeah, parking lot's going to go there. So working on the exterior here, and I've pretty much shrunk it down a little bit because I want to put in an entryway to the parking lot. I've added some nice big windows, and of course adding in a rear entry to the building. Theoretically, Sims who drive there, which they can't, can, or they can't park in the parking lot, can exit, into the building from the rear. So yeah, the color schemes that I go for are pretty neutral. Initially, I go with this kind of brick and wood tone, but the brick tone, it's quite light at the moment, but I do tone that down a little bit to be a bit more, a bit darker. So that ends up changing. Now, in the process of renovating these lots, I did them in two phases, more or less, because I pretty much finished the renovations, and then when I was editing the footage and putting them together, I looked at the kind of the end result, and I was like, I think I could probably do better than this. They were just looking pretty bare, and to be honest, with the both of them, they were just lots that I really wanted to renovate, but I didn't have any sort of particular idea in mind as to really where I wanted to go. With Comandgo, I wanted it to be more modern, that's for sure. And in the process of doing that, I feel like I kind of went a little too kind of minimalist modern. It's still kind of minimalist, but previously it was very boring, not very interesting to look at. So when I was editing the footage, I stopped and came and did some more. So you'll see the video towards the end, it kind of looks like it's starting to finish up, and then I transition to some footage of me just adding in some more detail. So with the interior here, just playing with some more modern textures. We've got some brick, and I believe that's a concrete on the floor. But the biggest challenge that I had with this was the color scheme. I was looking at a lot of reference pictures of salons, and I mean, in terms of me talking about how minimalist this build is going to be, salons generally are quite minimalist. They don't have much in them, and I guess that's kind of what drew me to sparsely decorate it. But in the end, I just felt like it needed a bit more. But yeah, like I said, it's a bit more minimalist. But yeah, salons can also have really interesting modern looks to them as well. So I did my best to try and emulate some of those styles and bring them into this build. So we've got the reception put together now, and just working on the color scheme for the rest of the salon area. That corner bathroom does go because yeah, it was just a bit of a weird spot for a bathroom. So yeah, there I am taking it out and moving it to the other side of the building, because all along this wall is going to be I guess, the salon area of the build. So putting all those counters on, and then recoloring those, and then adding in the salon chairs, and then the sinks. This part here, this sitting area space, was also quite a challenge, and I don't know what it was with this particular build, but what shouldn't have taken me very long did actually take me quite a while. Um, and I think it was just, I just wasn't really in the right mood maybe when I started building this one, because when I came in and, added a few more details after I, had seen what I had built when I started editing, I felt more inspiration, and maybe with this particular build here, I was just not in the right frame of mind that day. I was kind of just, partly why I'm doing this build now is because I do like to send my Sims to a salon when they do want to, get a haircut or whatever. Usually when Sims first age up, I'll send them to the salon to get their hair and makeup done or whatever, all that necessary stuff. And Strangetown didn't have a salon, so I really needed to get one done so that I could actually start using it in my gameplay. And maybe I just wasn't in the mood to build a salon, but yeah, I did kind of struggle with just everything really. The color schemes, the placement of objects, the furniture that I wanted to use. I mean, here it doesn't look so bad, but it was just not, even now looking at it, I'm just like, yeah, it's not really going anywhere that I particularly liked. So I was happy to come back and make some edits to it. Yeah, so what I'm doing now is just, pretty much just looking through the catalog for, decorations and things to kind of make the room look a little more interesting. That security camera there, I actually found that when I was looking for some grunge stuff for my Strangetown hostel, the city centre hostel. And I put some nice marble on the back of the wall there, and I feel like that makes it look really kind of fancy. One of the issues another issue that I had was with the sign. So I really like the sign, the custom kind of salon sign there, and I was trying to bring some of that pink into the rest of the build. So you can see with that couch, I was like, okay, well, the sign's pink, so I need to kind of introduce some more pink to the build so it looks a little more cohesive. But I couldn't get the pink to fit anywhere else in a way that was to my liking. So unfortunately that sign does not get used, and I have to go with another more neutral looking sign. It's just black, and yeah, that was a bit unfortunate, but it's what had to happen in the end. So you can see here I'm playing around with lots of different furniture styles, lots of different colors, and nothing was really gelling. I feel like the couch and rug kind of setup that I've got here isn't so bad. In hindsight, I probably would have kept it, but what I changed it to is, in my opinion, better. But I mean, even now, how that looks isn't so bad. But I did cut out a lot of footage of me playing around with a bulk of the recolors and all that. So yeah, you don't have to watch me, because personally, I think it's not the most interesting thing to watch, just me going through 100 million different swatches. So I tend to cut a lot of that out, and it's easier for me to kind of talk over because there's nothing really to explain except looking through swatches. So that is on the cutting room floor, I should say, all that footage. Now just looking for some clutter for this coffee table, and just looking for the right kind of decor that makes it, kind of fit the overall aesthetic of the interior here. And now adding in some clutter for the salon. And then I've got these nice shelves here, and I fill those up with kind of, I guess, salon products. And then I add that little vase. And I think the trick, what kind of made me more satisfied with the waiting area behind the reception there with with the couches. That's what I'm talking about. Is getting rid of the rug. Once the rug was gone, I felt like it looked a lot cleaner and just it fit the overall kind of minimalist vision that I was going for. So here I've actually replaced the salon sign with this dinky little sign. It's really unfortunate that I can't resize objects because that sign is one of the few 4 to 2 items that I've kept in my game. And it's just really unfortunate that it's so small because in The Sims 4 you can resize the objects. And so whenever I use that sign in The Sims 4, I tend to make it bigger. And unfortunately, you can't do it in that game, in this game. So just had to do with the little tiny little sign there, which, yeah, oh well. Now just moving on to the bathroom for I guess the guests and the customers and the staff can use. The room on the right hand side I just leave that empty. It could, in future maybe be a staff room if I have one of my Sims own this lot, and I think I might do that at some stage. What I'm planning on doing with my Sims 2 games is playing with more of the townies, as well as the pre-made Sims, and have the townies kind of run some of the community lots, just to kind of make my gameplay a bit more diverse. And that's kind of something that I haven't done before, and with this playthrough of Strangetown and Pleasantview, I'm kind of wanting to do things a little differently to how I have done them in the past, because I have restarted the saves, or the neighborhood, so part of me is just wanting to do things a bit differently, and hopefully that will kind of maintain the longevity of the playthroughs. My last Pleasantview, I played that on and off for about, I think it would have been about 4 years this year. I can't say there was 4 years worth of gameplay in there because I did take breaks from it for a few months. But in the end, and as well as, cleaning up my custom content, I wasn't really happy with where the neighborhood has gone. So it's quite exciting to start a new save. But again, I'm just wanting to kind of do things a little differently if I can. So the reception area is finished initially. I mean, this is kind of me finishing up stuff on the initial run of the build. Now I'm moving on to the exterior and just, kind of adding some details to the outside of the building. But then after this part, I believe I will go in and start just adding a bit more detail and things that make it look a little more interesting in my opinion. So this is the parking lot section. So just adding in a fake parking lot. I know there's a mod where Sims can actually drive to and park in parking lots. I don't know. I used to use it, and I don't know why I stopped. I feel like it was conflicting with one of my mods, and I preferred the mod that it conflicted with over the parking, parking on community lots mod. Maybe I should check it out again and see if I can actually have the mod installed again, because I might not even play with the other mod that it conflicted with. So I should check it out, but that does mean that I would need to kind of rearrange a lot of my builds if I wanted parking spaces to fit in, and I'm not really prepared to do that. So we will see. It may have to sit on the back burner a little longer. And so that's pretty much oh no, hang on, I've got some landscaping to do in the parking lot, and then it is pretty much done. And then just adding some other small bits and pieces to the exterior, the outside, or the exterior. And this is where this part here is where I kind of revisit the build and just add in a few more detail, objects and, items to make it look a little better in my opinion. So I did rearrange a couple of those objects outside because they weren't really aligned very well. And then I added this chair in the corner. and I changed the sideboard underneath the picture, added a clock to the salon area, and then I brought in these columns to kind of section off the salon part from the waiting area and the reception as well. And I moved those shelves closer to reception because I feel like, if you're going to buy products at a salon, then it's going to be closer to the cash register, not where the actual, the hairdressers or makeup artists, whatever, do their work. So that made more sense in my opinion. But that's basically what I did. I just cleaned up a few bits and pieces and also came back to the exterior and added some more details. So some more trash, of course. Now we're looking at the before and after pictures. So the before of the interior, and here is the after. So very minimalist modern. I quite like the color scheme as well. I like how the brown and blacks, how they work together. And the new waiting area. And the actual salon part of the build. And here's the bathroom. I didn't bother with many before and after pictures because it did change quite a bit, so there was only just a couple there, and here's the rear of the build. And the exterior before and the exterior after. And that completes Comandgo, and now we move on to Midnight Flows. Now with this one was like a lot of fun to put together. But again, I was probably, I don't know why, but I just wasn't really that inspired when I was doing the interior furnishings. So again, I, like with Comandgo, I came and revisited it. So there is some footage. Well, basically the footage is, it shows me kind of finishing up the build, and then, you'll see things more or less completed, and then I come back and make a whole heap of changes. This one I actually change a lot more than Comandgo, the interior anyway. Not necessarily the layout, but just what I actually use, and, color, it's not color schemes, objects and their placement and all that. But with this one, because I had recently done a brutalist build for the hostel, and the hostel is actually more or less across the road from Midnight Flows, so I wanted this build to be in a brutalist kind of style as well, and not just kind of brutalist, but also a little bit kind of dystopian futuristic. So it's very blocky, and it's got these little architecture pieces, the buggy boos, niche pieces on the exterior of it that add some dimension to the building, that kind of give it a dystopian futuristic kind of feel. And that's the theme that I wanted to give this club. Well, it's now a nightclub. I believe it was a karaoke bar before, but I changed it to be a nightclub. I wanted to have the dystopian feel all throughout the build. So the exterior kind of looks almost like a, I don't know, I was thinking almost like a warehouse, but it could even arguably be like a prison or something. I don't know. But it's a little bit grungy, but not as grungy as the hostel. Like, it's not filthy and covered in trash and all that. There is a little bit of trash here and there, but it's more, just, I don't know, dystopian. And yeah, so what I'm doing here is just playing around with the architecture pieces and just, adding some dimension and making the build look somewhat interesting, given that it is basically just a giant rectangle. I think I've said before with the Maxis builds, I do try to make it so that they are somewhat recognizable and, I guess paying homage to the original Maxis attempt. So yeah, and it pretty much was a big rectangle, so I was kind of trying to make this rectangle look more interesting, you could say. Now placing the what is it called, the fountain out the front, because it is called Midnight Flows, and I believe it's named after the fountains. So yeah, got to make sure there's fountains in this build. The roped off part to the entryway, I made it so that Sims had to actually walk through the roped off area to get into the club. So I thought that was quite cool. Now I'm just working on the interior, and this changes a whole heap. The layout, I think actually, except no, because I'm pretty sure Sims can't even go upstairs in the initial build. But that kind of upper level where there is almost like a spot that overlooks the ground floor, that stays, but I make it accessible. And then there's an upper level on this side here where I put in a restaurant. Now, I have said that I wanted it to be kind of futuristic dystopian, and I was kind of inspired by inspired by Blade Runner, the movie. That's actually one of my favorite movies. I haven't seen it for a little while though, but what I do like about it is the kind of the grunginess too. You know, the grungy, gritty future that it depicts. And so this build here, I tried to do like that kind of style as best as I could with the custom content that I had. And so you can see like there's a lot of, well, you can't see it now, but you will see a lot of texture that is, you know, stone, concrete, metal, lots of grey. There is some green throughout the build because in Blade Runner that kind of has that, it's an aesthetic that is similar to the game Cyberpunk. I was trying to think of the name and I had to stop the recording for a second because I could not think of the name of that game, but that kind of cyberpunk dystopian future. So yeah, I really wanted to kind of bring that theme into this build with the custom content that I have. Now, Blade Runner is set in, I think it's 2019 Los Angeles, so it's actually pretty much in the past now. But in the film, there is a presence of Chinese culture and imagery all throughout. So it's kind of this really cool visual of industrial United States, or industrial, kind of dystopian United States in the future with elements of Chinese culture sprinkled throughout. And I think that's really cool. Now, I don't have any custom content that is explicitly Chinese, so I did have to use what I had in my game. Because I did want to emulate that theme as well of like a dystopian future with, well, I guess like a dystopian North American future with some aspects of Asian culture sprinkled throughout. So yeah, what I did with this build was add some of the content that comes with the game that is clearly influenced by Asian culture. So some of the stuff from Bon Voyage in the base game, there is some like Japanese inspired content. And yeah, so in the later part of the build, you'll see me start to add that in. But yeah, playing with the layout still, or the floor plan, I guess, of the club. And you can see the upper levels have been connected by a bridge. And then there's some columns that more or less support them. And these columns actually light up, which is really cool. And they are from Pineapple Forest. One of my favorite creators in The Sims for The Sims 2. So always a pleasure when I get to use their stuff. Now I'm just playing around with the, I guess, the seating areas. These green lights don't stay. Well, I did say there is some kind of green lights and a green hue to the club. Not necessarily as intense as those green lights there. While they do, like the green light is cool. In the end, I felt like it was a little overdone. It just basically looked like it just, I don't know. It just didn't look right. So I replaced those lights with some of the neon rods, whatever they are. You'll know which ones I mean when I start placing them. But they give off a more subtle green hue. With the placement of the bar, so the bar is going to be opposite the DJ booth, which I'm placing in right now. And of course, sticking with the Midnight Flows theme, there are some waterfalls. There are some fountains inside. Now just selecting some archways for the entrance here, and that initially they were facing the DJ booth, but I didn't think that didn't really make sense, so I moved them out of the way. Now I'm going through and adding some bar stools to the bar and making sure those line up, and the bar pretty much surrounds the bar stools pretty much surround the entire bar, which is cool. Adding in some more kind of detail, like some side tables underneath these lights. And now I'm adding in, I have to look up what this is called actually, because I don't know, but some clubs have them. Okay, so it's a cloakroom. Now, I can't believe I even forgot the name of that thing because we had cloakrooms at school. So I should have known that it was called a cloakroom. But yes, some nightclubs have cloakrooms. And just for some added realism, I like to add them to nightclubs in the game as well. I guess it's just kind of, if you've got some useless space, which there is here, I like to add cloakrooms. Some more seating upstairs, and I'm getting ready to work on the restaurant part of the build. So here it's kind of the theme that comes together now is not, well, it kind of stays the same, but there are some more aesthetic changes. So more or less the object placement stays the same, but in terms of the decor and stuff, that does change a little bit. Now, with my builds, while I do like to have multi-purpose lots, so I like the idea of a restaurant and a nightclub in the same build, but because I like to send my Sims out to community lots quite often, I like community lots to have more or less, maybe one or two functions rather than a whole heap of different functions, because then it kind of gives me an excuse to go to different places in the neighborhood rather than just one place that caters to everything. So with dead space and nightclubs, like I filled up this part here with the cloakroom when I could have put like like a fun object or something, or like a karaoke machine, for example. I could have put that there. Initially this build was a karaoke place, but yeah, like I said, I changed it to a nightclub. But if I want my sim to do karaoke, then I would rather have them go to a space that was dedicated to karaoke. This place was, in my opinion, a bit too big to be a karaoke bar. It made more sense to me to be a nightclub, but I will change. Actually, I believe it's FM is the other community lot that's a karaoke bar. That one will be a dedicated karaoke bar. So if Sims want to play karaoke, then they can go to FM. I might put a karaoke machine in my not my grunge build, in my dive bar. That kind of makes sense for a dive bar in my opinion, and I tend to do that. So other than the dive bar, then there will be a dedicated kind of bar for karaoke. Whereas with nightclubs, I kind of like to have, pretty much it's just a nightclub. You go there to dance, listen to music, meet people, and there's somewhere to eat. It's not always the case in a real nightclub that there is a place to eat. Usually you have to leave the nightclub to go and eat, but this is The Sims, and if I want my Sims to stay here, then they will need to be able to find somewhere to eat. I could have put some vending machines or something, but again, this was such a big building for the purpose of it, or for being a nightclub, that I feel like adding a restaurant upstairs just, kind of made sense. Now I'm working on the bathrooms. They're nothing really that special, but they do, continue on the, I guess, dystopian kind of grungy futuristic theme where there's these kind of high-tech looking sinks. And I guess like it's an old manor kind of vintage mirror, which I thought was kind of nice. It contrasted with the sinks. Moving on to the kitchen of the restaurant, and this isn't really anything exciting. I mean, it's a very, very basic kitchen. Maybe if Sim ends up owning this nightclub, then I'll kind of do it up a little bit more, but I just pretty much wanted it to function and look somewhat presentable. So yeah, it's nothing too dramatic. So just placing in the usual kitchen clutter where I can. Yeah, but not really spending too much time on this. Just a rug there, and then I think I move on after this. Yep, there I go. Now adding in the obligatory photo booth. Can't have a community lot, or especially a nightclub, without a photo booth. I mean, there's got to be somewhere for Sims to woohoo, so absolutely have to put a photo booth there. And now I'm just playing around with the colors of the fountains there. I felt like black looked a little better and fit the rest of the color scheme. Now working on some more of the exterior, just making things more cohesive with the rest of the neighborhood. And you can see with the Comandgo parking lot, what I do with Midnight Flows is build the Midnight Flows parking lot so that it looks like it is part of the Comandgo parking lot. Really what will happen once I've kind of done all the builds that surround the Comandgo parking lot, I will have it so that their parking lots also look like they're part of that build. So the area of downtown that I'm working on now will look like that it is a parking lot that is surrounded by community lots. So yeah, just adding in these cars, and then I think that's pretty much the rear done for the initial build anyway. Still haven't done my revised edits yet. One of the things that I do kind of struggle with is how to decorate like a street front. I feel like there's only so much stuff you can put on before it looks too cluttered. So with this build, I didn't want it to look too welcoming. I did want it to look intimidating and imposing. And yeah, I feel like the minimal, I guess, style that I went for ends up working pretty well for it. But street fronts, again, just I have a hard time with them. Now I'm at the section of the video where I'm revising the initial work that I did on the build, and I'm doing that by adding some more clutter to the bar. And this is the new set from Pineapple Forest, the bar clutter stuff that they put out. Now I'm just going around the club and playing around with the placement of objects. I do kind of experiment with a few things like those neon stars on the wall there, but they don't last very long. Adding some candles to the coffee tables that are in front of these sectional sofas. And then I kind of was like, okay, well this space here is kind of dead and I have no idea what to put here. So I made this little weird sculpture of blocks and lights. It's just stupid, but it filled up the space and it's staying there. So yeah, now for the restaurant I'm adding in some more kind of industrial clutter. So these vents, and you know, they kind of add to that dystopian feel, I guess. And then I start moving on to the restaurant and adding in some more Asian inspired content. So with these little lamps here, and then I go in and add, oh no, this is when I start adding in some of the neon rods to illuminate the back of the seats, which I think adds in a nice little detail there. Playing around with the placement of seats and chairs, and then adding in some of these cool fans that have a nice white swatch to them, and some scrolls as well. I also played around with the wall textures as well, so things weren't looking so, I don't know, monochrome. Just to give, you know, add some more visual interest and dynamics to the restaurant here. I took out those plants and I ended up replacing them with bamboo, which I think fits the theme quite nicely. And yeah, just placing that in the corners to fill those up a little bit. I actually have another bamboo plant, but that was huge, so good thing I did not use that. Although it would have looked nice maybe from the bottom story going up to the top story, but yeah, I didn't really end up using that. So I've got these statues from Bon Voyage. They are inside at the moment next to the DJ booth, but I do move them. I'm pretty sure I move them outside. Yeah, but they also look quite cool in here. Quite a contrasting look in terms of aesthetics. You know, it's kind of futuristic, industrial, dystopian, and then you've got these kind of traditional looking statues at a nightclub. So I also put this picture of Bella here, kind of, you know, parts of it is, the middle part is obscured by the stairs, but I mean, it almost looks like it's two different pictures that are stuck on either side of the stairwell there. So yeah, quite like the look of that. Adding in some more vents to the, oh no, I'm not. I thought I was, but maybe I wasn't. I definitely add some more vents, that's for sure, but not where I put them before. Okay, I must have been thinking of wall or floor vents or something like that. I mean, it can be pretty hard to keep track of what I'm doing here. Like I can play something and then I'm not entirely sure if I take it out later, because I do that a lot. Like I'll play something and then I'll take it out. I'll change the color swatch of something. I'll change the wall textures. All throughout the build, I do have a hard time kind of focusing on one area of the build and then, leaving it and, I'm calling it a day and moving on to something else. Like I tend to revisit different parts of the build the entire time that I'm building it. So yeah, it can be quite difficult to voice over my own work when I do something and then I'm like, okay, I've done this, and then I go and change it later on, and it's like, okay, well, why did I even have that footage in there? But yeah, it's all part of the process, so you can see the journey that I took to put this thing together. So these statues, initially they were inside and I moved them outside, changed the color swatch so that they blend better with the surroundings. And also I placed them inside just next to the fountain on the second level there. Just there was a bit of dead space, so I added that. And then I moved over the cars because in the Comandgo parking lot I had some kind of side barrier things, those white stripy lines, so I wanted to add them into this build as well. Now looking at the before and after pictures, so here's the Maxis before of the ground floor, and here are my changes here. Looking at the bar, and this is the other side. I think this was a toilet space before. I can't quite remember, well, obviously because there's toilet signs. And here is the after. Now looking at the restaurant upstairs, and now looking away from the restaurant to my funky sculpture and the cloakroom here as well. So I guess the entryway. And I will leave you to enjoy the rest of these screenshots and say thanks so much for watching. It was a pleasure to put these renovations together and show them to you. So I will say take care, and I will talk to you later.